The moment John Carter stepped into the dimly lit hotel corridor, he already felt out of place. The soft carpet, the polished brass fixtures, the faint scent of expensive perfume lingering in the air. It wasn't the kind of place he usually walked into. For a single dad scraping by on a modest paycheck, staying at a hotel like this was a rare luxury. Tonight, it was supposed to be his one night to breathe, to forget deadlines, homework, and the endless list of responsibilities waiting back at home. But exhaustion and distraction can be dangerous. He fumbled with the key card, trying to match the numbers on the card to the tiny numbers on the doors. 808, no, 809, maybe 808, he muttered under his breath, the faint hum of the hallway air conditioning competing with the nervous thump of his heartbeat. Finally, he found a door labeled 808. Relief flooded him, and without thinking, he slid the key card and pushed. The door clicked, swung open, and instantly John froze. It wasn't the small, cozy hotel room he expected. No, this was something out of a magazine. Plush cream carpets, golden chandeliers, a view overlooking the city lights, and a king-size bed draped in silk sheets. And sitting elegantly on the edge of that bed was a woman. She didn't look up immediately. Her presence filled the room, commanding attention even from behind her laptop. But when her piercing green eyes finally met his, John felt like the floor had dropped out from under him. "Oh my God," he muttered, stepping back instinctively. The woman's gaze was sharp, assessing and unamused. She closed the laptop with deliberate calm and rose, every movement graceful yet authoritative, as if the room itself obeyed her. "And who are you?" she demanded, her voice low, controlled, yet with an edge that could cut glass. John opened his mouth, closed it, then tried again. I'm sorry. I think this is the wrong room." She tilted her head slightly, an almost imperceptible smirk tugging at her lips.
"No.
"This is the right room," she said, and before John could respond, she stepped forward, grabbed his arm, and firmly, almost forcibly, pulled him inside. "This is my fiancé," she announced loudly, her voice echoing off the marble walls. The words hit John like a punch. Fiancé? Him? Was this some kind of twisted joke? He tried to pull away, but her grip was iron.
"Wait. I'm not."
"Sure." She cut him off sharply, but without anger. Her eyes softened, just slightly, as though to reassure him that she wasn't completely insane. "You will be, at least for tonight. And don't worry, I've already informed the staff." "The staff?"
"Oh, no."
John looked toward the door, hoping for an escape, but the hotel staff had already peeked in. Whispers of surprise and curiosity traveled down the hallway. And somewhere in the back of his mind, John realized he had become the center of an audience he didn't want. "Look, ma'am, there's been some mistake," he started again, his words stuttering. "There's no mistake," she interrupted, her tone final. "I'm Isabella Grant. You may have heard of me. CEO, Billionaire, feared by Wall Street. And tonight, for reasons you'll soon understand, you're my fiancé." John blinked, struggling to process the absurdity of it all. Wall Street mogul? Billionaire? Fiancé? He felt like he had walked straight into a reality show, but without cameras. And yet, something in her eyes told him she wasn't joking. "Fiancé for how long?" he finally asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Until the gala tomorrow," she replied casually, as if discussing the weather. "Think of it as temporary. But for tonight, you stay. No arguments." John's mind raced. He had enough trouble keeping his own life together, raising his son, juggling 2 jobs, and barely making rent. And now, somehow, he was dragged into the world of a billionaire CEO who apparently wanted him to pretend to be her partner. He glanced around the opulent suite again, feeling painfully out of place in his worn jeans and plain t-shirt. And yet, despite the shock, despite the sheer absurdity, there was something in Isabella's presence that intrigued him. Something magnetic. Something that made him curious, even as panic coursed through his veins. As she guided him toward a plush chair near the window, she added casually, "Don't worry. You'll do fine. Just follow my lead." John swallowed hard, thinking of the life he had outside this room. The bills, his son, the quiet nights of exhaustion. But right now, in this unexpected twist, he realized that one wrong turn had led him straight into a world he never imagined. One wrong door, one unexpected encounter, and suddenly, John Carter's life was about to change in ways he could never have anticipated. John's heart was still pounding as he sank into the velvet chair near the floor-to-ceiling window. The city lights stretched beneath him like a glittering ocean, but he hardly noticed them. He was too busy trying to process the whirlwind that had just occurred, how a simple mistake at the hotel door had catapulted him into the orbit of Isabella Grant, one of the most powerful women he had ever seen. She perched on the edge of the bed, laptop closed now, her posture relaxed but impossibly commanding. Isabella Grant. The name alone carried weight, whispered in boardrooms, feared by competitors, admired by investors. And yet here she was, smiling just faintly, as if daring him to question her audacity. "So," she said, leaning forward slightly, her green eyes fixed on him like a spotlight. "You're staying. For tonight. Understand?" I guess," John said, his voice barely more than a whisper. Every instinct screamed at him to run, to bolt out the door, back to the safety of ordinary life. But the moment he tried to rise, she shook her head.
"No. Sit.
Relax. Follow my lead. Don't embarrass me or yourself." Her tone was sharp but not cruel, a paradox of command and subtle reassurance. John sank back again, feeling the weight of his own inadequacies. He wasn't a polished CEO. He didn't know champagne from sparkling water. He certainly didn't know how to glide through luxury like a predator stalking the boardroom jungle. He was just
John.
Single dad, overworked, underpaid, and now apparently the fiancé of a billionaire. "All right," Isabella said, rising from the bed with a fluid grace that seemed unnatural to John. "First lesson in surviving my world. Appearances matter more than truth. Tonight, you'll smile, nod, and answer questions. Any questions about your life? Give short, confident answers. Simple." John nodded, trying to memorize every word as if it were a survival manual. "Next," she continued, walking to the minibar, "learn how to drink like a professional without getting drunk. Invest in confidence. It's far more important than money." She tossed him a glass. "Water for you. But see how I do it. Mimic my moves." John raised the glass, mimicking her precise tilt, feeling absurdly out of place, and she smirked faintly. "Better than I expected. You might just survive this." He laughed nervously. Survival seems like the goal. She laughed too, soft, unexpected, and a little dangerous. "In my world, survival isn't enough. Thriving is optional. But for tonight, survival will do." Then, as if noticing his hesitation, she leaned closer. "I chose you because I need someone real. Not a polished actor. Not a hired companion. Someone who doesn't hide behind a mask. You, John Carter, are refreshingly unpolished." John's chest tightened. Compliments like that didn't come easily in his life. Single dadhood was a constant exercise in modesty, patience, and resilience. To hear it from someone like her, someone untouchable, was almost surreal. The tension in the room shifted, if only slightly. But there was no time to dwell. A knock at the suite door reminded John that the outside world was already watching. Isabella opened it, revealing 2 hotel staff, poised to assist, but their eyes betrayed curiosity at the unusual pair. "Introduce yourself," she instructed, "and make it quick." John cleared his throat, his voice shakier than he liked. John Carter. Tonight, I'm, accompanying Ms. Grant as her fiancé." The staff blinked, briefly confused, then nodded and scurried off, leaving the 2 of them alone again. "That's better," she said, closing the door.
"See?
You're already surviving." John exhaled, trying to steady his nerves. I can't believe this is happening. I mean, this is your world. I'm me." "And yet," she replied, her gaze unwavering, "you fit. Because you have something most people in my world don't. Authenticity. Tonight, people will see a version of you. But underneath it all, you're exactly who you are. Don't forget that. John glanced at her, struggling to match her confidence. He was terrified, yes, but also intrigued. There was a magnetic pull in the way she commanded every inch of the room, every heartbeat of attention. For all her power, Isabella was strangely vulnerable here, too. Vulnerable enough to trust him, even if only for appearances. The city lights flickered in the window behind her, bathing the room in a cinematic glow. John realized, with a mix of dread and excitement, that tonight would change everything. Not just for the gala tomorrow, but for the delicate, unspoken connection building between them. One wrong door had led him into this suite. One unexpected encounter had put him in the orbit of a woman who could crush him or elevate him. And as the seconds ticked by, John Carter understood a terrifying and exhilarating truth. In Isabella Grant's world, nothing was predictable and nothing was as it seemed. John Carter had never seen anything like it. The lobby of the Grand Avalon Hotel was transformed into a glittering ocean of tuxedos and evening gowns, crystal chandeliers casting rainbows across the marble floors. Waiters floated between clusters of guests, carrying trays of champagne and hors d'oeuvres. Cameras flashed, reporters whispered, and the air buzzed with ambition, rivalry, and whispered secrets. And there he was, John Carter, single dad, sweat still drying on his brow, gripping Isabella Grant's hand like a lifeline. He had followed her instructions to the letter. Stand tall, smile at the right moments, nod as if he belonged here. Yet every step felt surreal, every glance from the crowd a reminder that he was utterly, completely out of his element. Relax, Isabella murmured as they paused at the entrance, her voice calm, measured. Confidence is the currency tonight. Fake it if you have to, but never look like you're overwhelmed. John nodded, trying to steady his nerves. Fake it? He had spent years faking calm in front of angry bosses, unruly clients, and tired children. Surely he could manage a room full of billionaires.
Right?
The moment they entered, whispers followed. Is that John Carter? A sharply dressed woman asked her companion, eyebrows raised. The single dad? Really? John's cheeks burned. He wanted to shrink into himself, to vanish. But Isabella, ever graceful, wove through the crowd like a predator moving effortlessly through the hunt. Remember, she whispered, your role is simple. Smile, be charming, and act like this is completely normal. The irony wasn't lost on John. Nothing about this night was normal. Not the chandeliers. Not the flowing champagne. Not the fact that he was pretending to be engaged to the CEO of the largest tech company in the country. They approached a table where high-powered investors were seated. Isabella's smile was radiant, magnetic, and entirely rehearsed. Everyone, this is John, she said casually, draping a hand around his shoulders. My fiancé. The investors blinked in surprise, exchanging quick glances. John forced a smile, feeling his teeth grind together behind it. Pleased to meet you, he said, shaking hands, nodding, keeping his voice steady. And then it happened, the first real test. One particularly curious investor, a tall man with a silver streak in his hair, leaned in. Tell me, John, how do you manage your career alongside family responsibilities? John froze. Career? Family responsibilities? He had never spoken like this in a room full of strangers. But then he remembered Isabella's words. Authenticity. And something inside him clicked. Well, he began cautiously. I don't have a fancy title or a huge salary, but I work hard to make sure my son knows he comes first. Life has a way of teaching you priorities quickly, and for me, family is everything. Everything else comes after. The room went silent for a heartbeat. Then a few nods, polite murmurs of approval. Isabella's eyes met his across the table, and she raised a single eyebrow, a hint of a smile tugging at her lips. Not bad, it seemed to say. As the night progressed, John realized that surviving this world required more than fake smiles. It required presence, wit, and courage, the same qualities he had honed raising a child alone, navigating budget crises, homework meltdowns, and endless nights of doubt. Somehow, those same skills were now winning over billionaires. But Isabella wasn't done testing him. A rival CEO, known for ruthless tactics, sidled up with a smug grin. "Is that your fiancé, Isabella?" "Interesting choice," he said, eyes glinting with challenge. "Tell me, is he really capable of keeping up with your world?" John felt a flush of heat rise to his cheeks. He wanted to shrink into the floor. But then he remembered. This wasn't just a game. Isabella had trusted him. And he, in turn, had begun to see her differently. Not just a powerhouse, but someone who, beneath the armor, was human. Vulnerable, witty, even approachable. "I don't think you understand," John said, his voice steady despite the tension. "It's not about keeping up. It's about being real, about knowing what matters. And if that's not something you value, well, that's your problem, not ours." The rival's smirk faltered. Isabella's lips curved into a small, approving smile. She leaned close and whispered, "Impressive. You're starting to see how it works, aren't you?" John swallowed hard. Impressive? Him? Somehow, amid the opulence, the flashing cameras, and the subtle power plays, he felt a spark of confidence, a dangerous, thrilling spark. For the first time that night, he didn't feel like an outsider. He felt capable. And as the gala continued, John realized that the world he had stumbled into might be terrifying, overwhelming, and surreal, but it was also exhilarating. He was no longer just John Carter, single dad. Tonight, he was the man standing beside Isabella Grant, facing challenges, proving himself, and maybe, just maybe, finding a place where he belonged. One night, one gala, one mistaken room, it had all led to this. And John Carter was ready to see where it would take him next. The gala was supposed to be the pinnacle of the night. Glamour, champagne, and carefully curated smiles. But John Carter quickly realized that in Isabella Grant's world, appearances were only the beginning. Behind the sparkling chandeliers and polite laughter, a storm was waiting to erupt. It began subtly. A tall, sharp-eyed man in a tailored suit lingered near the edge of the room, his gaze flicking between Isabella and John with unmistakable calculation. John recognized the type immediately. A rival CEO, always looking for weakness, always searching for the one misstep he could exploit. "Who is that?" John whispered, keeping his voice low. Isabella followed his gaze, her expression tightening. "That's Marcus Vane. He's charming when it suits him, dangerous when it doesn't. And right now, he's looking for an opening." John swallowed hard. Dangerous? He dealt with angry landlords, screaming clients, and schoolyard bullies, but a dangerous billionaire? That was a new level of challenge. As Marcus approached, the polite laughter of the gala seemed to warp into an almost cinematic tension. Every guest turned slightly, sensing the undercurrent of confrontation. Marcus extended a hand toward John with a calculating smile. "Ah, the single dad fiancé. Quite the surprise, Isabella." John forced a smile, keeping his composure. "Pleasure to meet you," he said, trying to mask the adrenaline surging through his veins. Marcus's smile never wavered. "I hope you understand," he said smoothly, "that some of us don't take kindly to improvised partners in our world. Mistakes can be costly." John's mind raced. Mistakes can be costly? He didn't even know where to begin. But then he remembered Isabella's earlier advice. Authenticity matters. Confidence matters. Stay calm. Think fast. He leaned slightly closer to Isabella. "What should I do?" he whispered. Her eyes flickered with a mix of amusement and trust. "Show him you belong.
Think.
Don't panic." The room seemed to slow around him. John drew a deep breath and spoke, steady and clear. "Mr. Vane, I may not have your billions, but I understand loyalty, integrity, and commitment. And if anyone underestimates that, they do so at their own risk." Marcus blinked, momentarily taken aback. A ripple of murmurs ran through the surrounding guests. Isabella's lips curved into the smallest, approving smile, just enough to let him know he had passed a subtle test. But the night wasn't done testing them. Just as the tension with Marcus eased, a waiter tripped nearby, sending a tray of champagne crashing toward an elderly investor. In the chaos, John reacted instinctively, catching the falling glass, steadying the man and ensuring no one was harmed. The crowd gasped. "See," Isabella whispered once the incident was over. "Quick thinking. That's exactly what I mean. You're sharper than you realize." John felt a rush of pride, but it was short-lived. Marcus wasn't done. He leaned closer to Isabella, voice low but pointed. "This is risky, Isabella. Your reputation." Before Marcus could finish, John interjected, calm but firm. "Reputation isn't built on perfection. It's built on handling the unexpected. And right now, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." The crowd, sensing the subtle showdown, buzzed with excitement. Isabella's gaze softened just slightly, a mix of admiration and something unspoken that made John's heart beat faster. He had survived the first wave. He had proved, in his own way, that he belonged in her world, even if only for tonight. As the gala wore on, Isabella and John moved together through the room like a team, facing challenges, deflecting questions, and navigating whispered intrigues. John began to understand the rhythm of her world, the calculated smiles, the unspoken rules, the delicate dance of power and influence. And amidst all this high-stakes drama, something remarkable happened. John realized he was no longer just pretending. He was engaging with this world, not with fear, but with presence, wit, and integrity. And Isabella, in turn, began to see him as more than a placeholder fiancé. She saw someone capable of standing beside her, matching her pace, and thinking on his feet. By the time the gala drew to a close, the tension had shifted from hostile scrutiny to mutual respect. John had navigated crises, confronted rivals, and proven his worth, not in money or influence, but in courage, calm, and authenticity. As they stepped out onto the terrace for a moment of quiet, Isabella's hand brushed his arm. "You did well tonight," she said softly, almost offhandedly, yet the weight behind her words was unmistakable. Not just for appearances, but in ways that matter. John felt a strange warmth spread through him. He had survived Isabella Grant's world, yes. But more importantly, he had begun to understand that the connection forming between them was no longer just part of the charade. It was real. The city lights stretched beneath them, and for a brief, electrifying moment, the noise of the gala fell away. One wrong door, one unexpected encounter, one night in a high-stakes world, it had all led to this. And John Carter realized that the hardest battles, the most unexpected crises, sometimes brought the greatest rewards.